Good evening and welcome to Naturally. Today we have an amazing show. A few weeks ago, I was supposed to have two of my wonderful, wonderful guests and we had to cancel. So today I'm really, really pleased to be able to bring you Darrell Blake and Miss Yankey. Hi. Real powerhouses. So let's introduce our guests.
Hi, well, thank you very much for having me. I know this is like literally, we've been waiting to do this for like a minute now. And first and foremost, I have to praise you because of the work that you're doing, your mindset. I've known you for a while now, and your spirit's always been like, it's been contagious. You're very infectious. It's infectious with positive energy, like literally. So I know your fans know exactly what I'm talking about, but I have to praise you first as you are the queen, so I have to do that.
I really appreciate it.
Myself, me? So I'm Darrell Blake, and I am a community activist, I would like to believe, covering research, doing community work in terms of empowering young people, going from that to literally building platforms and programs for schools, doing lectures, debates, the list goes on.
For me, you're like a modern day, like a historian, sociologist. When I see the things that you're doing, I'm like, yes, like you're gonna go down in the history books. Darrell Blake, no, for your research and what you're doing. And
Thank you.
I'm really, really, really pleased to have you, and I'm so proud of you every single time I see you. And we've got the divine feminine in the house, powerful, inspirational, beautiful Miss Yankey.
Stop it. Back at you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I've been waiting to come on this show, man. I've seen a lot of my fellow flow poets up here, like, when's it my turn?
No,
So
I'm so excited to have you. When we cancelled, I think that was the most disappointed I've been like. But now, audience, you're in store for some really, really great things. So tell the audience a bit about what you do.
So I am a spoken word poet primarily and a writer, and I use my poetry for activism and to advocate for the oppressed and the silenced mainly. So I do a lot of work for domestic violence awareness. I do a lot of work for mental health awareness. I co-host two events, so one called Mind Over Matter, which is a platform for people to speak about mental health using hip hop and spoken word, and the other is a community interest company called the Chocolate Poetry Club. So that's how I spend the bulk of my time. But then I also run a project called Poetry Prescribed, and that's what we do. We prescribe poetry in the form of workshops. And it's just a really beautiful environment and a safe space for people to come and discuss various topics. So we've covered everything from violence to mental health to celebrating women, surviving loss. I think we've done over 60 different topics now.
Right.
And we bring people together. We use spoken word poetry as a catalyst for conversation. We talk and we create. So yeah, anything to do with the word, that's what I do. That's me.
Well, you're doing amazing things, and I sit back and I watch you. And when I watch you perform, you touch me every time. It really, sometimes I get emotional watching you because the power in your words, the passion, the drive, amazing. So having the two of you here together, I think we was talking before the show, like we need more time.
Stop the conversation. The show hasn't started yet. Just don't get into
juicy.
it. It was good. It was a good pre-show chat.
It was actually. Well, so let's get started then, Darrell. Let's start with you. How did you get into what you were doing? Because I've known you for, well, I don't know, probably a good few years now.
Yeah.
But you went through music.
Right.
And then I would see, I think the first clip I saw of you was one of those clips that went viral of you talking about investing in black business. And you're outside the hair shop.
Yeah. Golden Touch in Forest Gate,
Yeah, Golden Touch. I think I've got that clip. Technician, if you can, could you load that up and maybe we can watch that shortly? But I saw that and I was like, hey, that's what Darrell there. Like, and it was like, I think you're basically calling people to invest in black business. And that's when I started seeing the other things that you were doing. So how did you get into it?
All right. So I grew up on music. My dad's he's a collector. I grew up on like rare groove, lovers rock, roots culture, everything. And funk. Yeah. So my mum's side, that's the soca side. That's the yeah. Flying fish and cool. But yeah. So my dad he brought me up on music, but he implemented a bit of consciousness with it as well.
Yeah.
And it was mainly through reggae that pioneered my mindset, but I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought my dad's teaching me something, that's it. Can I just get money for trainers? That was it. I was kind of but I had it in my head anyway. And I can say the time where I started to really look at the world differently, not even on a black conscious level, was my auntie who made me do a fast. I was like 14 at the time, and she kind of persuaded me to do a fast. And I did it. She's Hebrew woman. Yeah. So back then I was like, can black people be Jewish? Like, I didn't even think that. So when she was Hebrew, I was like, okay, interested. Shall I do a fast? Do an atonement fast. And after I did the fast, my life sort of changed, where I started to question things a lot. And because I was so young at the time, I had no one to go to. Like, it was at that age, when you're year 9 going into year 10, you don't really want to be talking about anything other than the most common topics, because you're seen as a weirdo or whatever. Yeah. So I just kind of kept myself to myself. There's only one guy who, a Muslim friend of mine named Ali, who he was the one that he gave me a sheet of paper to read, and it was about like Illuminati, and I was like, what's that? What's that about? And he's like, you need to read this, it's deep. I was like, okay. And I read it. I was like, okay. And then my brothers maybe watched a documentary about it, and then they was talking about like weird stuff like shapeshifters, and I was like, oh my god. Remember, so I'm 15 mindset. Yeah, it's like, they're reptiles. Do people blink that way? I was like, wow. And then I kind of put it to one side. I joined a radio station called Genesis Radio with Dennis Rowe, who's a friend of my father's, and I was 17. I did the People's Talk Show every Sunday, and I was debating with literally everyone. He wanted to turn me into like a beast. I was like, go easy on me. He's like, I want you to read this. Next Sunday, we're going to have Christians in, we're going to have Rastas in, we're going to have Muslims in, we're going to have Seventh-day Adventists in, we're going to have all these people. And every Sunday, he was just like saying, yeah, do you know what, go on. Because he didn't feel like they was doing enough for young people in the community. And he's like, you're the future, you're young, so go for it. So I did that for like a year and a bit, and I realized like, all right, it's a bit too much. So I had to detach myself. And I was like, let me get into music properly and start doing it professionally. Because I was always listening to music, I wasn't DJing. And then through DJing, I kind of built my name, built a platform. But I got to a point where I was like, I haven't really touched on myself and culture. So let me just do a little post, about, celebrate black women, black. That was it. And then it got a lot of likes. I was like, wow. But then I got a DM from someone, and it said, thank you for speaking to us. Thank you for your opinion and your voice. I was like, wow. So I started to do it more, and I realized, do you know what? Like, there are people who want to hear things from someone who's in the industry, who's got a platform, and he's willing to take that risk, because I was playing, well, still do, but house music. So that's a European-dominated industry. So if I put out a post saying, black love, black power, everything great, love Africa, and a promoter's like, I want to see what his social media page and say, oh, we will book him another time. But I didn't really care. And actually, it played in my favour, because they respected me. I was like, this is my human opinion, but how's it going, Dave? You all right? Yeah, what's going on, Bill? Yeah. So it worked out for me, sort of thing.
But you're doing so much. You've been to the House of Parliament. You've been lecturing at like Cambridge.
Yeah, I done a debate at Cambridge. It was about Commonwealth, and it was like there's the Commonwealth. Basically, in a nutshell, does the Commonwealth still have value, and is it important today? So I believe I was the first black man or black person to debate Commonwealth at Cambridge University.
Wow. Incredible.
Thank you. Yeah.
Brilliant. And then my son, the school put him on a program. There's some mentoring program. I thought, what kind of program is this? Like, they could put him on, and then came to the school. Lo and behold, it was you. So you're actually in schools working with young people, and I think your level of knowledge and consciousness and what you speak about, I think, is so amazing to actually hear someone out there in the mainstream saying the things you're saying. Like I saw a post on your Instagram. I can't remember what her name is now, and you were talking about, for example, mental health. If someone's got mental health, there's a plan. If someone
it's basically saying like, and I'm sure you know this as well, with mental health. So for example, if someone's an alcoholic, they can go to an AA meeting. There's a 12-step program. If someone is taking drugs, substance abuse, cool. There's a program in place for them to kind of cope. If our young people are addicted to money, just like someone's addicted to drugs or addicted to alcohol, if someone's addicted to money, what is the 12-step program in place to get someone off the addiction of money, where they have the addiction as, I need to make this money, even if it's illegally, to give myself happiness, because happiness is my drug.
That's the mentality that a lot of the young people have, and it's like they're very much tapped into this YouTube, the ideologies that they see. It's all about having money, it's all about what you're wearing, what you have, and I have issues with my son with that. I think it's so much about money. So when I hear you sitting there speaking it out into the open and putting it out there for people to hear, and actually driving for change, I think it's just so commendable.
Thank you. Because I feel like I have to do the young people justice. If they trust me with their information, I have to say, do you know what? I'm going to go into spaces where you're not going to be heard, so I'm going to give it to them. Whoever's in the room, they're going to get it tenfold, because you have to save the young people, that some of their stories. So what you're saying about getting money quick, we are creating a generation of instant gratification. So I'm saying, so, okay, you want to watch a film? Cool. Netflix, quickly. You want to go dating? Okay, cool. Swipe left, swipe right. You want to order some food? Boom, boom, boom. Instant gratification and what money out. Because that's what's glorified. Hard work is not glorified. So they're looking at, okay, so you can work and do that, but you're going to get this money, you pay these bills, but you're not happy. Nah, this person's happy. They've got jewels, they've got this.
I mean, I hear it all the time. My students will sit, my students will tell me, like, look at your life. You're here, you're working for somebody else. I can go out and I can make £100 an hour. They think, even though when you actually start to talk to them and break it down, you think you can make money on the road, but really it's saturated and it's not the ideal that you think. But they actually believe, like, what you're doing. You think, I'm going to go get up and work every day for somebody else. All they're thinking about is, I can go out and I can make money now.
And you can't really blame them. So tying it into the addiction to money, if getting money, working, the normal 9 to 5 is not glorified and they want it instantly, what is the 12-step program in place for someone that's addicted to money? There isn't one. Because you would have to change poverty. If you change poverty, you have to change capitalism. If you change capitalism, that means you at the top of the ivory tower, you're going to have to bring yourself down. But they're not going to, for capitalism to exist, someone has to be poor. Who's going to be poor? So it's a racing, it's a class thing as well.
It's class.
So
it's very much about
there isn't a 12-step program. You can't change poverty unless you change it from the top down.
And it's interesting you say, no one wants to work a 9 to 5. We don't normalise or make, like for me, I want my children to think it's normal. You can work for yourself. You can be enterprising, you can be entrepreneurial, but that's not the norm now. We have like a conveyor belt system where it's like you go through the system, you come out, you graft in a job that you're probably not going to like. I mean, I'm an adult. I don't want to sit at a desk every day.
Wage slave, really. And that's kind of what we're taught. The conveyor belt does teach you, you go to school, you go to college, you go to university, you get a good job, you pay your taxes, you get a mortgage, and that's the conveyor. But it serves to keep a lot of people on the same level. You stay at the bottom. There's not really much progression. Like the public school system kind of pushes you. Is it private? I always get them mixed up. Private schools, they kind of push you to be leaders, whereas state schools, they kind of recreate people who are on that mediocre level. So.
And they're just preparing you for the wider world to go and basically help someone else's business. So private schools they're good. I mean, it's got its flaws, but private school's good, but it's pricey. But saying that, it's averagely it's about 22,000 to send a child to private school a year. It's about 34 to 35,000 to send someone to prison for a year. So what would you rather do? Spend less money and send a child to private, or send them to prison?
I think it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
So
And you're also about to release a documentary. So can we load up that documentary, please? Get that ready for us, technician. So tell us a bit about your documentary that's coming out?
Yes, I've got a documentary coming out called The Dole Test, The Birth of Self-Hate. Now, it's based upon a 1940s experiment that was done by Kenneth and Mamie Clark, where they wanted to bring about a notion of...
Okay, wait, hold on. I think it's gone to clip.
Oh.
This experiment will look into how today's black children in Britain see race in relation to good and bad, and also how they subliminally see themselves. Have we overlooked the minds of the youth? Have we unconsciously painted the image of beauty in the eyes of the young? Does colorism exist amongst black children? These are the questions I want you to think about when watching the following. The Dole Test, The Birth of Self-Hate.
Go on.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do is explore that. The experiment that they did was fantastic. It basically showed that they wanted to challenge the equal but separate laws, which basically saying in America, you know, with the Jim Crow laws and stuff like that, it was like, okay, you can have a gymnasium, you can have a swimming pool, you can have a school, whatever. We're separate, but we're all equal. However, the quality of the difference between white and African American there was a major difference. And also, what was the psychological damage that black children were going through having their own school sort of thing, and because obviously the quality is quite low, and they're seeing white schools as like great. So they created this documentary, which was like a short documentary piece, but they brought the results with it to the courts and said, hey, we need to change this because our black children are pretty much looking at themselves as pretty bad and pretty negative and that sort of thing. Which then helped a case that was going on, Brown versus Board of Education, where a father, he wanted to bring Mary Brown to a school and she wasn't allowed. It was like, nope, you can't come in. So he took it to the courts and he backed it up with the test that was done, and then, desegregated the schools. So that was like way before Rosa, way before Martin. This was 40s, going into the 50s. So I was like, okay, how far have we come? And plus, most of our doctrine is, realistically, it's American based. A lot of it is. So I was like, well, we've got enough black people here. So where's our story and mindset? And working with young people, I believe in early intervention. So if I'm like, okay, this is happening with our teenagers, where does it come from? So what I did was I did a Dole test, looking at children from 4 to 9, and recreated it. Did it with a little bit of a twist. My questions were different. And there's the results. I can't take the results. I can't wait to see it.
When is it released? When
so
can we
next
see
week is the Birmingham premiere on the 23rd. Tickets sold out, and then the London premiere is on the 8th of November. I think there's only a few, probably like 5 tickets left. So, but we've got guest speakers as well. So we have a Q&A for Birmingham. A lovely sister of mine, Caprice. She's going to be hosting the event. And then I've got myself on the panel. I've got Jamelia as well, Robin Walker, and he's like the father of Black History. He's a legend. And Abiodun Isaac as well, a community activist, especially with young people in Birmingham.
So there's going to be a panel after you watch it, or is that part of the documentary?
So no, afterwards. So we're going to watch it, and then there's going to be a panel discussion, and then the London panel. Well, we haven't released the names yet, so I can't tell you. But we've got the panel. I'll tell you that afterwards. But but it's broken down to 3 parts. It's got a beginning, middle, and end. So you will see. But the beginning, like, I've only seen it once, and with the editing piece, and I was just like, wow.
Well, maybe what we can do once it's released, you can come back, and then we can show you some parts of it. And we can talk about it. Because I'd love to have you back. I'm already feeling like the time. I'm looking at the time. The time's disappearing.
It's going quick.
So I'd love to have you back. And we can look at it in a bit more detail because it's so interesting. I studied sociology. And my degree's in media and society. So I've always kind of been a bit of a sociologist. So that's why I'm so switched on by what you're doing. And I think it's so relevant. And we do need to think about how we see ourselves and where we are. And I see it working with the young people, the mentality and self-esteem, and there's so many issues. There's so many issues that we must address. It's like a poem starts to come out, and so many issues that we must address without self-assessment, we'll never progress.
Oof.
Look inside and outside, review and reflect. What are our challenges? What are our challenges? Let us inspect. So,
you're on fame with the spoken word.
Yeah.
So,
I ain't gonna kind of boss that you
no,
don't
I bet
have.
he has. It's not like,
Not at all.
all that
Don't
knowledge
lie.
in there.
Listen.
Listen, we're gonna have to pull some
Yeah.
poems out of him.
One
But
day.
there are so many
Yeah.
issues that we must address, and we have to look at it. We have to analyze. Like we're talking about post-traumatic slave syndrome. We have to lance the boil. We have to actually look at what the issues are, so that we can move forward. There's no point in us brushing over them.
This is
We
it.
have to actually assess, look what's happening, and then see how we can move forward.
And
So,
it's psychology, to echo what you're saying, is what the documentary, what I will be talking about is I have to be hard on guardians, parents, and say, look, our young people are literally facing things that we never experienced.
yeah,
100%.
And especially with the doctrine of like self-hate's crazy. They might, so there's something called delayed onset of illness, where something could happen to you and then later on it will affect you.
Yeah.
Some young people are affected at such a young age, like 4. And then 14,
Just
10 years later,
start seeing them.
it starts to come out. You're thinking, where? Why then? Because we didn't harbour and say, you know, let's explore that. When we're young, we think, just leave them with YouTube, it's fine. Just leave them with
And
BBC.
from an early age, and the thing is,
telling
we
you.
live in a technology world where babies, straight away, the phone's in front of them, and they're feeding into it. And it's like another part from that same poem is, don't let the matrix of YouTube TV be defining factors in your child's mentality.
Yeah.
Because
But you can
they're-
get baby bouncers with holders for
No
iPads now.
way.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Anyway,
That's a whole other show.
we're gonna have to move over. I'm excited to move over to you, but we are gonna run out of time. We could speak to you for the whole night, but I want to get over to our wonderful Miss Yankey. So tell me, how did you become a poet? Like, when did you start writing?
Do you know what? I've always been a poet. For me, my mum kept all of my workbooks, so I've actually got exclusive Miss Yankee poetry from 5-year-old Miss Yankee.
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
I just always wrote poems and stories. I always lived on cloud 9 and was in my imagination, and that was kind of, in hindsight, looking back, writing was my way of processing things. So if I wasn't happy or talking about the school system and being young, for me, when I read back on some of those poems, I'm like, wow, the psychology behind that is incredible and quite powerful for a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old to be writing about. I've got one poem somewhere where clearly I'm nervous about the fact that I'm having a sibling, and I must be about 6 when I've written this poem, and it's it's kind of deep. So I always wrote through childhood, and then I started publishing stuff online in my late 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that before spoken words?
Way before spoken word.
So
If you'd have said to me then I would read in public, no way.
It's like me. I was too scared to do it. But
Yeah.
you started as a poet and then moved on to spoken word.
Yeah. I was petrified to
Me
read
too.
poetry in
Me too.
public, and I submitted something for like this competition called the Poetry Rivals, not thinking anything of it. But a friend was like, "Oh, you should submit." So I did, and they were like, "Oh, we like your poem. It's been longlisted." And I was happy for it to be longlisted. I was like, "Brilliant!" And a few months later, they were like, "Oh, you've been shortlisted." I'm like, "Oh, great. What does that mean?" They're like, "Oh, all of the finalists come and perform at the Royal Albert Hall in a few months." I'm like,
First
performance.
Royal Albert Hall.
straight into the frying pan.
Wow.
And I'd been online and I'd been networking and I knew poets and I'd been watching spoken word, but I'd never performed.
I'm feeling the anxiety for you.
Right,
Like,
yeah. I was
that's
mad
like-
anxious, man. It was crazy. So but I did it, and what made it worse is that obviously my mum was really proud, my friends. So I ended up with about 14, 15 people there, which made it even worse. I'd rather there was no one I knew there, just stay at home. But they all came out to support me. And you know what? After I did that, I'd love to say that I went straight, like I got the bug, but that was in April. And after that, I was like, no, it was great, but I don't know about this.
Wow.
And it took me till the November to go and hit an open mic.
Wow.
And I went to Chocolate Poetry Club.
Oh, so that was your
It was my first ever open mic, and I'd go on my own with my poetry in my note on a piece of paper, printed actually, not in my notepad, and I'd read from paper, shaking, probably, and I smoked back then. So in the breaks, to avoid speaking to anyone, I would stand outside just smoking, and you'd catch me at the back of Chocolate Poetry Club, nervously waiting to read my poem. Then I'd be really embarrassed after I'd read. I wouldn't want to talk about it to anyone.
Well, you have definitely come so far, because I think you're one of the performers that I watch in total awe, and it's breathtaking, and the content and what you're saying, so uplifting and inspirational. You're doing so many things. I know you've just come back from America.
Yeah,
I've seen you in Scotland. I've seen you outside Parliament. I think you had this. Tell me some of the amazing,
the last
fantastic
year
things that you've been doing.
It's been mad. We started the year in Melbourne.
Wow.
So we took.
You know what I mean? I'm telling you, I watched like, girl, really?
We took Mind Over Matter to Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
We had an opportunity to do it, and Fisky, who founded and runs Mind Over Matter, was like, yeah, let's go over and just do a show out there. So we went over there, worked the open mic circuit, won an international slam on my first day there. Yeah, it was.
So she's just humble like that, just well.
Listen, she's sitting there like, oh yeah, listen, this lady here, she's a powerhouse.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a poem for you. Don't
Just,
worry,
guys.
Yeah, you'll hear some of the power. Actually, I did this is the poem that won me the slam that I'll do.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, so you'll get to hear it. But Melbourne was great because it was needed, and it was really nice to go to the other side of the world and actually see, when it comes to mental health and that discussion, that this platform is needed for people all over the world to have a safe space and a therapeutic space to just come and be welcome to talk and share poetry. So that was kind of just an amazing start to the year. We sold out, and the feedback was incredible. So we'll be going back to Melbourne in 2020. And then I got the bug for travelling and sharing my poetry. So I'm in the final edit of my first ever book, which is called More Than a Machine, and it's an exploration of mental health, and it covers everything from PTSD to anxiety to negotiating relationships with mental health, what it's like to lose people to mental health. And then that recovery period as well. So a lot of the poetry I've been sharing comes from this book. So the rest of the year
So is it a poetry book?
It's a poetry book.
All
yeah.
poems, okay.
Yeah. If you follow me, like at Miss Yankey, you'll find a link that will give you some more information about the book. Yeah.
And when is that released?
I'm waiting for a final release date. I'm just on what I'm hoping will be the final edit. Every time I get to the final edit, I'm like, no, not quite. There's something else.
You're a perfectionist.
Yeah, but I have this great editor who's now like, a poem is never really finished. So we're going to have to go through each one, and you're going to have to abandon them to move forward. So that's the process that I'm in now. But I'm late November, early December. Like, it will be 2019, yeah. Christmas presents, yeah.
If you celebrate Christmas,
yeah.
you can get. And
if you don't, you can just buy it anyway. You can just buy it anyway. Yeah.
Kwanzaa.
Yeah, exactly.
But you advocate for so many positive things. I know you advocate for domestic abuse, mental health. So tell me a bit about the work you do with domestic abuse.
So the domestic abuse is a big one for me. I'm a survivor of domestic violence myself. And I never thought I'd write about it or speak about it with other people. It was a deeply uncomfortable topic for me. And my cousin, in the early days of me writing, was like, oh, this online magazine are looking for people to submit, and the topic is violence against women. You should write something. So I was like, okay, cool. So I picked up my pen, and this poem called Another Woman's Cry just flowed out of me. I didn't really put much thought into it, and it was my story. And afterwards, I was like, "Oh, it was really weird reading it back in black and white, back to myself. I'd never written it all down, and I submitted it, and it was published. And then I wrote another one. And at this point, I'm in a number of survivor groups as well with other women. So I'd shared these poems privately with the therapy groups. I was in the support groups, and like you said earlier, you had people in your inbox saying, "Thank you for that. I needed that." I had all these women just messaging me saying, "Thank you, that's my story as well." I was like, oh, this became purposeful. Yeah. It's not just my story, it's someone else's story. And I performed it 2 years after I wrote it at the Flow Vortex, and one of my fellow Flow poets, Solomon the Wizard, was like, "Oh, I recorded it. Could I share it with my mum?" She works for a domestic violence organisation. At this point, I don't realise that his mum is like this world famous, renowned, kick-ass black feminist, incredible. Like she's an incredible woman called Marit Larisai. So he sent it to her, and from that moment on, she's like, this needs to be heard. And I've performed at the Million Women Rise March, which happens International Women's Day every year. Thousands of women come together and march to Trafalgar Square. So that was like my first Trafalgar Square performance.
To stand there, I'm telling you, the two of them are sitting here like, oh yeah. I've got your two icons, and it's just a real honour to even know you, and to be able to share you with the audience. So, Trafalgar Square, how many people is that? I mean, it was crazy, and my children were there at the front as well, which was really, really nice. You know, to be able to listen. First ever women's march they went on, and they had like their placards. One of them said, "I fight like a girl," and the other one was like, "I'm a warrior like Yara Shantiwa." And they marched hard, you know. They were 5 years old. It was their first march. I was so proud, and then to perform was great. But as nice as it is having those big platforms and the positive feedback and all of that's great. But for me, it's work. You know, it's not just women that approach me after I do the domestic violence pieces. It's men as well that are like, I watched my mum go through that, or I watched my sister go through that. When we present and talk about domestic violence, it's often the facts, the figures, the statistics. It's not the stories of the actual people that are going through it. There's no feeling. And I know poetry can promote empathy, but it can also educate people from a whole different place, which is why I do it. And I've just completed a project with Southall Black Sisters, they're a charity they've been running for 40 years, and the work they do is incredible, and they specifically help black and, I hate the term minority ethnic, but that's another show. But you know, we park that one. But yeah, they do this work with survivors of all kinds of violence, and they've paired a group of female writers and performers with the survivors group. The survivors group have written their stories, and then we've gone in and worked with these survivors and retold their stories and written their stories in poetry form. So there are two groups of women from totally different walks of life, but we've both experienced trauma and violence, and the book is incredible. So I'll send you some information about So
that.
I'm gonna have to do the same. We're gonna have you back on, and I want to hear some of these pieces, and maybe even bring on some, of the ladies. And
I would love that. They would
come back
love
and
that. Yeah.
share, because this is like a teeny little taste of a little bit of sherbet that I'm getting from the two of you.
Well, the motive is the same as this guy here. It's purposeful work.
I'm blown away. I'm literally just like blown away.
I told you.
Says the man who's about to release the most incredible documentary.
This is what I told you. When I put you two together, I was like, you know what, this is going to be an amazing show, because what you lot are doing in the community on such a wide scale, you're touching people and you're helping people. It's just keep doing it, keep pushing, because you're elevating minds, you're asking questions. You're pushing forward, so I'm just in total awe of the both of you. I just must bow to my king and to my queen, and thank you for what you're doing. And it takes people like yourselves to actually implement change and open minds and elevate. And I think having the platform and being yourselves, it's like people can look and see it's normal people just like me, but they're sharing knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's what's needed. So I can't thank you both enough. But what time? Let's see how much time we've got. Well, I want to get to our talking point, but before we do that, I would love for you to put some fire on this mic.
I've been waiting for this,
No, guys. So which poem are we gonna get? Because you were debating.
Well, seeing as I'm sat with an activist, a fellow activist, and we touched on the mental health work and the domestic violence work, but we didn't touch on my political work. So I also performed at the Stop Trump rally this year.
You know, I'm leaving, you know.
This is my thing. I'm a poet, you know. That's what I do.
Poetry is so important, man. Like, oh, go ahead.
With the bars, with the voices.
Yeah, so I'm going to perform. It's Black History Month as well. Black History Month.
Yeah.
Another show. We'll park that too for now. We'll get back to that.
Well, we've got a talking point.
Yeah.
So we might be able to.
We can
talk
touch on
in a
that.
minute.
So yeah, this piece. I did clarify first that I was allowed to do this piece, guys. This piece is called "Fuck Your Feelings." Yeah.
It's a spoken word. It's about expressing your truth, and you know, it's not about being PC. So, fuck your feelings.
Okay, let's
Thank you.
go.
Step over to the mic.
Yeah, just give you a round of applause and a walk up.
Make sure that the camera's on you. I'll give you the nod when you're in shot. Okay, you're looking all fine. Look, get ready.
Tell me when.
Still me.
I'm excited to hear this.
No, she's amazing and powerful.
Okay,
Be
don't
prepared.
mess me up too much, you know, the pressure.
And ready to go.
I stopped wondering where your outrage went a long time ago. I overstand your selective empathy. I have often watched you pray for others and talk about how you don't see colour before watching you fetishize black skin and joke about things like wanting chocolate babies. I have clocked the likes and shares of posts that promote everything but the love and hope that you naively profess will heal the world. Many times I have sat, fists clenched, heart racing, stomach turning, teeth grinding whilst being told by those who are definitely not racist how that was then. Life is so much better for black and brown people now, like I should just calm down, shut up and stop making them feel so uncomfortable. I have been told that the killing of black men and women in America is not that bad and in no way comparable to terrorism or even racist, by those who will never know the trauma of seeing kin with skin like theirs being hunted down like animals on a daily fucking basis. I wonder if those friends who once ridiculed my brother for passionately insisting that slavery was still very much alive are still laughing now. It shouldn't take a CNN broadcast and some Facebook posts for you to believe that it's real. You've been hearing this for decades, but your eyes stayed shut and your lips stayed sealed. This is not a problem that just magically reappeared after long going away. Libya is not the only place that still trades slaves. What about the slaves of Mauritania? Chad, Sudan, the Congo, Mali, South Africa, the list goes on. So, with an estimated 40 million plus slaves being traded worldwide, contemporary slavery should never be denied. There are even slaves locked away in London basements being masqueraded as maids. Today you may be shot. But how long will that last? How long before I'm back watching the Facebook walls of silence led by colourblind friends who scroll past fast, occasionally stopping to sign a pointless petition asking a guilty government to do something about a problem that they helped to create in the first place? I want to smash those rose-tinted glasses straight off of your face and scream at you, but I don't. I can't. I can't explain my pain to those who only dare to care about it when it suits them. I can't explain my pain to those who stay blind to white supremacy and deny white privilege. I can't explain my pain to those who don't really understand the definition of racism. I can't explain my pain to those who cry white tears and become defensive, who silence me with their fragility and need to not be made to feel bad. Fuck your feelings. Today, I'm expressing mine. And if you don't like it, well, that's absolutely fine. I can live with that. Thank you. Thanks, guys. That was fun.
The power in your words. Look at him. Darrel, would you like to comment?
I want to just tip this. What?
That does remain one of my favourite pieces to perform. Yeah,
I love that poem.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
He was like, you.
Yo, I was like shaking my head because this is the energy, the power, the direction. It reminds me of The Last Poets. Like it's like revolution. Yeah, the revolution won't be. Yo,
the revolution will be televised.
But
yeah, no, yeah.
That's one poem, and I'm telling you, every single poem you do, resonates.
Thank you.
And just
Thank you.
keep spreading the word. Some of the female poems that you do, uplifting like young girls. There's so many. Like I could have you literally on here to just do.
I mean, I don't live far. I can come back.
I know you're gonna come back. You're gonna come back. But you know, like it's so nice to see the impact that you're having on each other as well, because this is what you do. You see where you're sitting there like, wow, that's how I feel about you when I see the things that you're doing.
I'm gonna have to write something in response to that documentary specifically, especially as a mother.
Yeah.
Real.
You're both
collaborations are coming.
I love that. I can't. I'm speechless.
Okay, so
I'm speechless. Anyway.
Well, don't be speechless, because now we are going to go on to our talking point.
Sure.
Right? And today's talking point, because what we do each week, I try to have like a topic that we can discuss, a current affairs story or something that's going on in the press or an issue. Now today we're going to speak about Jeremy Corbyn. He made a statement and he went to somewhere, I've got the information right here. He went to like a school, he's talking about Black History Month. Let me read what it says anyway. So this is from The Independent. So on a visit to mark Black History Month, Corbyn says, Black history is British history, and it should not be confined to a single month each year. It is vital that future generations understand the role that Black Britons have played in our country's history and the struggle for racial equality. In light of the Windrush scandal, Black History Month has taken on a renewed significance, and it is more important now than ever that we learn and understand as a society the role and legacy of the British Empire, colonialism and slavery.
Okay.
So, like, I actually like Jeremy Corbyn, and I think it's fantastic that he's coming forward and speaking out. So I thought that would be the topic that we're going to talk about. It's Black History Month, and I spoke about last week how much I used to sneer at it, and it's like a, every month you get out, have a nice bit of taste, a bit of cultural food. It takes us back to the same time, and I think it is important that we show our history as it's not Black History Month. Our history is history.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts? What do you think about? What do you think about Corbyn? What do you think about Black History Month?
I mean, he said the right things.
Your feelings?
Yeah, no, it sounds it sounds great. But the reality, for me, the reality of implementing such a thing into a system that fundamentally is broken, I'd be interested to know how he's going to actually, it's a nice thing to say, but the practicalities of doing that. And also the remit, even he's talking about the fact that they want to teach about colonialism, the empire and all of that. That's great, but there's so much more.
Exactly, because that's what I was saying. I've always been brought up, my mum would always push through to me, our history is much bigger than slavery. And this is what they always serve to take us back to a certain point.
Yeah. Black
History Month, it starts with slavery, and growing up, that's where I thought my history began. Like, I've got a poem called Stand Up and Be Counted, and the lines from it, divided and conquered, fractured, beaten and singed, we're still living the legacy of Willie Lynch's dream. They'd have us believe this is where our history begins, but before we were enslaved, we walked this earth as kings. Fill in the gaps that his story forgot. This may take some time, because the gaps are a lot. Then I go on to talk about the Moors, who I had no idea about. I had no idea that the Moors lived here, like in Europe, for 800 years. They don't go back that far. They don't talk about the impact that they had on the Renaissance or educating. It was Europe's educational home.
See, I always just assumed this was common knowledge. I was very lucky to have access to a lot of books and material at home. Sure. So I just kind of thought that this is something that all Black families discuss.
I didn't.
See, it's interesting.
Because you're a historian.
I like what he said. It's cute.
Yeah.
It's cute. It's like,
he said the things,
Again, that whole one, I just don't like that whole white saviour thing.
Yeah.
Two, he said Black history, we need to learn about colonialism, that's it. But it's like, be specific. If you're talking about Black British history, cool. If you're saying Black history, well, are you going to cover like 6 million years of history? What is it you're actually going to be talking about? Plus, who's going to be teaching history? And then if you're going to say about colonialism, then the conversation of reparations is going to come up. It's like, if you're going to talk about British doctrine and Black history, you're going to have to throw everything out.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do that for 1 month, that's poor, and I don't like the system anyway. And you're right, it's broken, and it kind of works in their favor as well. And it's to me, I'm just tired. Like, I spent years fighting racism.
Yeah.
It got tired. See these grey hairs? It's from fighting racism. Like, it's from dealing with people. It's from fighting them. I was like, the best way for me to deal with this situation is for me to empower my people, because knowledge. They say knowledge is the power, definitely. But knowledge is just a tool. It's what you do with it. So we can have Black history, and people can be like, yeah, great, but what do we do with it after that? If we're gonna do it for that 1 month, that's poor. Plus, our young people, like, at the moment, like, some of our young people, some of our Black children are like glory hunters. They will celebrate Blackness when it's popping, when it's nice, when it's real, when it's to do with culture, food, athletics, whatever. At the time, it's like the other little bits, the political side, the historical side. They're like, because they have been so conditioned to see Blackness as a couple of things. They don't see it as a noun, adjective, or pronoun, anything like that. They just see it as Black. It's just a culture. You dip into it when you want it, and you dip out of it. That's it. Yeah. So, again, it's cute, but
I don't think he's even saying like it should be a monthly thing. He said it shouldn't. But my issue with that, and I agree with everything you said, but my issue with that is, even if you are going to include it every month, why are we labelling it as Black history, and why isn't in, like, I learned about the Greeks, the Romans, everything in the UK, the Elizabethan, the Empire. We learn about all of those things. Yeah. So Black history is world history, and it should just be integral in all textbooks. And so they'd have to just, for me, it's just throw away the whole curriculum, and it's dead.
And that's what I'm saying, because the Renaissance, like, I learned about the Renaissance. The Renaissance, the Great Renaissance. You never told me that the Renaissance was you going to learn from the Moors.
Of course.
And they're the ones that gave you street lights. They're the ones that gave you sanitation and central heating. And they're the ones that taught you about.
Because
why isn't this just to add an extra chapter into that book? To show.
They give you trinkets, so they give you that little bit of, because the Renaissance was the most dangerous part for Black history, because in like 1453 you had the movement of something called iconoclasm, which is basically you had like emperors, leaders, kings and queens from Europe that were saying, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of the Moors that are here, especially the ones in like Grenada, and then we're going to start painting over some of the saints and some of the, like, so when they decided to, and this is like before Columbus made his way all the way over there, right? So we're going about 40 years prior to Columbus setting off. They already started to change the images of Jesus Christ. They started to change the images of kings and queens and start making them lighter. So when he came over with his doctrine as well, that was funded literally by the Pope, a lot of the like later on Romans that came forward is like, all right, we're going to eradicate everything. And obviously, if you go, for him to talk about Black history, he has to say, because the most decorated queen is Queen Elizabeth I. Everybody loves Queen Elizabeth, not everybody, but they love Queen Elizabeth I.
Yeah.
But they take out the parts where she commissioned Sir Francis Drake and Sir John Hawkins in the mid-1500s to go to Guinea and kidnap some slaves. The first enslavement was by Sir Francis Drake. They called him Sir.
I know that name, Sir Francis Drake.
Because Sir Francis Drake is labelled as the first person to circumnavigate the earth.
Yes.
So that's how, and they did that. They said in like from the 1570s, circumnavigated the earth, and he's like he's a famous guy. But his cousin is Sir John Hawkins, and they went to Guinea, kidnapped 800, slaughtered 400, took 400, brought them to Europe. And then she was like, yeah, keep going, and commission. If you go and look at Sir Francis Drake, he's got an emblem, like kind of like a coat of arms sort of thing. Yeah. And with his emblem it's got a picture of like a black man on there with curly hair and everything, and behind him is a white person. So this was, and he's also known for the Spanish Armada, so he sailed to the Caribbean and intervened, and but the Spanish were chasing around the Caribbean, so like what Pirates of the Caribbean is about. So he's known for taking cargo, which was Africans. He's also known for kidnapping Africans in a part of Guinea, which is like Ghana from Benin to Nigeria and around that section there. So then bring them up to Europe. So he's known, and plus what makes it even worse is that in London Bridge by Borough Market, there is a slave ship, which is the replica, which is called the Golden Hind, which is a replica of the ship that he used to circumnavigate the earth. But they started from 1570. But they missed out the prior, where it's like, whoa, so he sailed around and kidnapped Africans and slaughtered them. So you're forgetting to mention that. Plus, you go around Britain, it's like, okay, we've got banks, so we've got Barclays, we've got all these banks that were funded and insured slave ships that was happening during that time. Like, hence why I had this.
I know, he's ready.
Hence I had this. If you go into schools, you got globes and maps, especially in geography along on classroom walls. That map there was created in 1569 by a cartographer called Mercator, something like that. And it was for sailors to travel from one place to another like a straight line. That's how it was designed.
Yeah.
We're still using that today. That was in 1569. It was for sailors, for European sailors to travel around the world. What were they traveling doing in the 1500s? So you've got something else called the Peters projection map. So my sister, if you can just hold up that bit there. So you've got this map, which they don't have in schools, which is a reflection of the actual sizes of continents and the actual sizes of countries in relation to how they are literally planned out.
That's the scale.
Right.
That's an accurate, yeah.
So and you go around to look, when you're watching, right, go on Google and type in world map. Look at the size of Africa, look at the size of Greenland. They make it relatively the same size. However, what is actually true is Africa's 14 times size bigger than Greenland. So what you got to understand is anything along the line of the equator below, you see as negative, you see as poor. It's called the third world country. They break it down. They actually want to separate themselves and say that's the first world. Sort of like parts of Arabia is called the second world, and the third world is all the places with darker hue people. So what they've done is that they shrunk all these continents, and they even shrunk here to make it seem small in size. It's like when you go into shopping centres and you go in shopping markets and you go into let's say you're going to go buy cereal. Kellogg's seems to be at eye level because they pay extra money. So as you go in, you don't want to bend down. So they have it like that. So it's all about lines. So when you look at a map, you seem to go here, look at Europe, you look at England, and It's further up, but they've brought themselves down. Another cheeky thing they've done as well, which kind of upset them in school.
You need to change geography as well.
It's not adding things in. We have a lot of stuff to correct, and to do that, that's why I said you have to dash out the whole curriculum because it's false.
Exactly. You know? What they've done, they've called Europe a continent, which is not, because Europe is a continent is meant to be surrounded by three waters. Europe doesn't. It's here. It's actually Eurasia. So they've actually separated themselves and called themselves a powerhouse of Europe when Europe doesn't exist because it's landmass. Like Australia, here, that's a continent because it's a mass. It's a big, huge place, landmass. Europe doesn't stop. It just gets to Russia and it goes straight over to China. So they've lied and called themselves Europe as a continent when it's actually Eurasia. It's a lot of nonsense. So we have to change geography. We have to change English. We have to change history. We got to change even science. Science is so bad. It's so poor because science is what funded and literally the stereotypes that we get today where black people are lazy and X, Y, Z and we get called monkeys and stuff like that comes from scientists that were making works and doing works in Oxford University, so many universities in Europe, but mainly in the UK. They was ones that's pushing out the knowledge and the information. Europeans, especially you got like Mendel's law, or he talks about that. You've got a few that come through. So you got Professor Leakey, who went to Africa and said the oldest woman is in the world is an African woman, and you got Mendel's law saying light eyes are recessive and darker eyes are more dominant. But that's the small pieces. But you've got Carl Linnaeus, you've got James Marion Sims, who was the father of gynecology, who created the vaginal speculum, and he perfected that piece, that tool that when you go to anyway, moving on, right? He perfected it by performing that on over 300 African women without local say. So this is all coming up from this part here, which is the devil. I know America is seen as like the worst place ever, but Americans initially are English people. They just moved over. But it's the British who literally, if you look at the definition of a devil, literally in the dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, Britain will come up. Literally everything that Britain has done. You've got Tasmania right here. Right, and they literally went there and wiped out a whole.
And they got this Tasmanian
devil the cartoon made them see literally a whole set of people. Same with some of the indigenous people in Australia. So go ahead.
We was talking earlier about a story that came out about the leprechauns of Ireland. Yeah,
straight from here, the Twa people, the Xhosa people. From here, they migrated up And that's what the leprechaun is meant to. The leprechaun is meant to be someone with curly hair and ginger, someone who's other. And if you look at some of the ginger-haired people from South Africa, it's meant to be them short,
small people.
Right,
and
and
they made shoes and things like that.
exactly. Leprechaun is meant to be magical.
And that's what the elves and the
stuff.
shoemaker, those stories. When
Yeah.
I read that, I was like, and it's like, that's what I mean in terms of the history.
Yeah.
We need to go back and correct these things. It's like,
I don't even know if it's even so much of a correction, because even if we do all of that, like you just mentioned, all of the books that we learn from throughout school to university, like if you actually look at where the literature comes from, the literature is westernized. Like we don't have African philosophers, not just even from Africa, from everywhere. So but my solution personally is I just don't engage with that system. I don't send my kids into that system. Full stop. Because even if we amend and edit and put all of the correct information into those books, it's still being taught by a system that is corrupt. The literature is not diverse enough, whether or not you're studying English, whether you're studying sociology, psychology, the literature is biased fundamentally. And if it is going to be edited, who's it going to be edited by?
It's so true.
Not our community.
No.
It's still going to be doctored, it's still going to be policed. So
Watered
for
down,
me personally, I do believe that there's a place for the school system. I know not everyone can make the decision to homeschool. For me, we all have a responsibility to homeschool. Homeschool doesn't mean that your kids don't, for me it means that my kids don't engage in the system. But for some people that will mean you still educate your children at home. I went to school, but everything I needed, it was go to the Tree of Knowledge. We had encyclopedias, we had books, we had literature that had come back from Ghana that was there for us to read. We had texts that were translated that weren't British or westernized texts.
Nice.
And we were constantly having conversations at home. That was normal to me, and we need to continue to do that as a community, to not rely on a broken system to teach. This is why we need people like you
and people like you
sharing knowledge.
I fully salute you, because like I got so much respect for Ghana. Ghana, they literally like just pushed the envelope. Was like, listen, do you know what I mean? I'm a Pan-Africanist as well, so I love me some Marcus Garvey, and I wish more people, especially when I work with families, and I really, really wish more people, more parents, more guardians take up what you're saying and say, you know what, let me, because it literally starts at home. When you go into Waterstones and you go into the Black History section, 80% of the books are written by Europeans.
Yeah, I don't mess with that.
Like, what does that actually say?
But this is why we need people like you writing those books and getting them out there and being credible. And so that we've got something to tap into, and now we're in a position where we're taking ownership. For example, I have a friend, Chris Sibia, who does London's Finest Distributor. Get our stories out, our own.
We need people like that, and also we need, like, a lot of people don't think that African literature, for example, or any kind of African text predates slavery. Like, you mean it'd be like, you mean like the stories, or no. There have been people writing literature in our languages for our people, not for the West, for centuries upon centuries upon centuries.
When you used to hear the word Timbuktu, it's a
make believe place, right?
And that same poem, we run out of time. I was thinking I might try to close on it, but Timbuktu, like these, like Kush, Timbuktu, you hear these names. Timbuktu was an imaginary place, and they say, "Oh, what do you think? Timbuktu?"
Yeah.
It's like
mocking.
No, these are the places where you actually went to go and get your facts and your knowledge. Yeah. This is the foundation. So we've run out of time.
Just getting started as well.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would like to thank you both for coming. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing show, and I'm definitely going to have you both back individually. Sure. I think I might have to start doing individual feature shows, because there's really not enough time. But then I would miss out on the opportunity to make these connections. So I really, really appreciate you coming. Do you have any thank yous?
I just want to thank my ancestors, man, because I live with them every day, and like without them I wouldn't exist. And for the ones that made it through the Middle Passage, you know what I mean, like if they didn't survive, I wouldn't be here, because that lineage that goes back. So I have to give thanks to those that came. I'm standing on their shoulders at the end of the day, and I give thanks for music, because it was music and poetry that got me to where I am today. So I just want to thank my ancestors, thank the ones that are here who are creating the kings and queens that we're bringing forward. Thank you two. Now you two, like you two are the essence of everything. I mean, the woman is, you know what I mean. Obviously, through European doctrine, it's a patriarchal society. It's a patriarchal doctrine, knowledge, information. The enlightened ones that came through and said, okay, when we talk about like Karl Marx, it's always European men with whatever. I'm tired of them. It's about celebrating our women. And if you go through Black history, you see that throughout the continent of Africa, even in in the Caribbean and in go to Brazil. Do you know what I mean? Largest population of Black people outside of Nigeria. Like you go through their doctrines and you see some of their books. It's like, wow, like Black men and women are celebrated, and we have to get back to that. Do you know what I mean? And Europeans know it, but they don't. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Europe is named after African Phoenician goddess Europa, so that's who Zeus gave the island of Crete to. So Europe's named after a Black woman. When you go and check out the if you Google the original lastly, you don't believe me? Go and look when they created the euro and they had to get the €1 coin. On the flip side of it is the African goddess Europa. She's on there. They put it on there for us to see.
Okay.
I mean, going on from that, and I'll keep it short. But I just want to thank all the powerful women in my life. Those that are close to me, my ancestors, but also just the divine feminine energy that seems to be that I seem to be attracted into my life. People like yourself, all the wonderful poems I know, and for a short quote to end on: woman, she, I, queen. I got a very strong legacy with very strong genes from a very long line of very strong queens. I close my eyes and I can picture the scenes. I walk where they walked. I dream what they dreamed. They flow through my veins. It's their blood that I bleed. Women, she, I, queens.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you for watching Naturally. Join us next week. It's going to be another... Actually, there's no show next week because I'm going on holiday. Join me the week after, where we have Black Women's Fashion and Latouche the writer. Thank you. Goodbye.
People and outside Golden Touch Hair and Beauty Shop. The address is 81 Wood Grange Road, Forest Gate, London, E70EP. How we build our economy is that we've got to spend with our own. I know some people like to step out and go into places that are more convenient for them. Cool. But every so often you have to spend with our own and spend with our people. So let's walk inside and see what's there. Hello, Auntie. Hello. How you doing? You alright?
Hi.
Hello, Uncle.
Yeah.
So, you got black soap there?
Yeah, we have black soap.
Walk us through the black soap.
Yeah, these are the various types of black soap I have.
Okay.
This is originally from Ghana.
Nice.
Yeah. We have it different sizes, as you can see. And even I have a bigger one I cut into pieces. I cut even one for one.
Sister Joy.
Alhaja.
Sister Joy, every time I see prophetess these days, her skin just dey glow like newborn baby.
Not be only you notice that, oh.
Hello, prophetess.
Hello, friend. Prophetess, today, you have to tell us the secret of this everlasting beauty, oh.
That is not a secret, oh, my sisters. Wendy Glow Cosmetic Series is my all in all, from facial scrubs to stretch mark remover. Trust Wendy Glow to have a solution for your skin. All their products are personalized to your skin conditions, and you will see a visible difference within a short time. Currently, they are giving 10% discount by mentioning Wendy HTV.
I beg, take me there now. I don't want party again, no, until I start using Wendy Glow.
Me, I want to party. This is their details. Telephone 01634 936 728. Mobile number 07403 251 543. Website www.wendysglowcosmetics.com. Email info@wendysglowcosmetics.com. Wendy Glow Cosmetics will help you wear less makeup.